Dear listeners, welcome to the seventh episode of the Wellbeing Podcast with Sandeep Neutron. This episode has been really, really special in terms of so many things, which I'll hopefully tell you later in the show. Without any delay, I want to invite a very special guest for this episode. Chef, amazing human being, a great friend of mine. I had the opportunity to work with him for several years. He's also a father of two amazing kids, Leo and Lucas. I'm so grateful that he offered and came here to show his support and perhaps share a few things from his personal life and experience. Chef Austin Torsiello, welcome to the podcast, The Wellbeing.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. Really fantastic to hear from you. Great to be in touch from the other side of the world and be able to share my perspective on, a really important topic for me. Great to hear from you. Great to be with you, especially going through this journey and show some support towards you getting the podcast going, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I think we are living in this amazing time where we could virtually connect with almost everybody in this globe. But with this opportunity, also there are some issues. It's always a problem sometimes to establish a secure connection with somebody who is so far away from the actual recording station. And we've been experiencing this issue for some time, so I'm hoping
just
we can
a couple drops.
Yeah, and I've bbeen putting the chef in, he's going through this trouble of trying to connect with me, and I'm asking him to let's do it again and again and again. So hopefully it doesn't drop in the middle. That said, I'm gonna just begin and ask the chef how he's been. I know it's been a difficult time, not just in the United States, but around the globe, and especially hard for the hospitality industry with the pandemic. But let me ask him, how are you doing, chef? What's going on? What's doing in your life?
Well, I'd like to think, all things considered, I'm doing pretty great. This year has been filled with a ton of negatives if you look at it with the wrong perspective. But I think one of the things that, I've seen a lot of and I've learned this year specifically is just patience and the limit of control that we as human beings actually have in our everyday life. And especially for all of us, we want to think that, we're the masters of our own destiny and we can do all of these things. And, if there's a will, that there's a way. And I think the biggest lesson coming out of 2020 is the lack of control that we truly have and how we have to really adjust our mentality towards being better, more patient people and understanding these challenges and what it means on the greater spectrum. I've launched many restaurants in my career, helped people start up, consulted on projects that were, in their infancy and helped to see them through. And this year I've kind of started, stopped, reinvented, and changed everything that I've been doing in all three of the businesses that I operate up here, pretty much 6 times. Between them shutting us down or between us adjusting to the challenges of the virus before the shutdown, adjusting to delivery only challenges, adjusting to how and what are we going to do with loan money, and what are we going to do with this, and then relaunching with outdoor dining only, and then relaunching with indoor dining only, and all the challenges that we face with that. And now they're about to maybe pull things back, and there's new restrictions, and the winter is coming. I'm sure it could beat a lot of people. but it's all about the mental state. And I think that that's, one of the things that we're really here to talk about today. And at least from what you told me originally about the podcast, I think that that's one of the most profound parts of understanding that and finding happiness in these difficult situations.
Absolutely. I think, Chef, you hit the spot. This has been the number one is in or the inspiration behind trying to do this kind of podcast, because I really felt when I was myself struggling through phases. I could in the social media now that you could find almost everything if you type few sentences in a Google search, but there are still quite a few places where we could visit to sort of get help. But I think it is still underrated, like mental health, the well-being and happiness. This topic should be in the forefront. That's what I thought, but I think it is not in the forefront at the time. That's why we see, like I suffered through some phases. I see, people, our kids, youths and people who need help. I think it is not as easily accessible as it should be. That's what we thought. In that point, I think you hit the spot. That said, you already told about patience and having to have that sense of endurance to cope up with the difficult time. And 2020 is perfect, I guess. Which shows that how fragile and how uncertain things could be. That's it. What are the approaches you personally took, Chef? I know you personally took some of the approaches, or did you do any exercises, or is it just some introspection you did? What are the ways you applied in your life to keep your through all of this 2020?
Well, first of all, in breaking the stigma that exists between a masculine personality and mental health issues, which I think is like one of the most glaring issues, right? Is that people say, you're a man, you don't talk about mental health, you just get through it and you bite the bullet and you get through these challenges. And I just want to let everyone know who's listening that is an absolute lie, and to completely tell yourself that is a disservice to yourself. I've sought therapy many times in my life through different challenges, and actually for the last 2 years I've been seeing a mental health professional who helps me to have an ear that comes from a place of non-judgment, who has no real influence on my life other than being the rock on which I place my problems. And I think that that's a very healthy part of what has made me be able to confront these challenges as they've come to me this year. I think that without the 2 years of lead up that I've been working with a professional on countering my demons and looking at these negative aspects of my life, and looking at the harmful traits of my personality, that was one of the most important things. Sandeep, I'm sure you remember, I'm an avid reader. Constantly nose deep in books or articles or really whatever I can digest in front of me, and that's definitely been a portion of my calm, is keeping myself informed, staying informed for other people, whether it be things about the virus or things that I need to do to take care of the people around me from the public health standpoint, or strategies that I can take, books on psychology, things that I can do to help the people who I'm ultimately responsible for, as like my employees and the people who seek me as their leader, and being a stronger person for them. That's one of the things that, as a chef, everyone relies on you. You've got to be the person with all the answers. So if I crumble, they crumble. And I think that's always been one of the things that keeps me going. But staying informed, taking care of myself. I've smoked marijuana for 17 years of my life. Turned 30 this year. I quit. I stopped drinking. And really, I bought myself a motorcycle in the middle of the pandemic to give myself a hobby that I could escape.
I saw your motorcycle. It's dope.
Thanks, man. I've been kind of using that as like my escape. So, between doing some custom work on it and slowly wrenching on the bike to disappearing into the mountains, or even just going for an hour or two on a ride after a long and hectic day in a place where I could be in my mental space and decompress. One thing that you and I both know is how difficult it is to decompress after rough nights in the hospitality industry.
Sure.
And it is one of those really disturbing and dark sides of the industry. And a lot of people turn to drugs, and a lot of people turn to alcohol or promiscuity in their sex lives, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of people turn to very negative demons, in which I was guilty of for quite a few years in my early 20s. And now, I see that those coping strategies were very ineffective. And still being able to be in the industry and be a little bit older and have grown a little bit more and see these things and really start working on myself, has given me a lot of perspective. And I have always been searching for what else can I do to come back from that and to not lead myself into that dark side and that temptation that's so ever present in the industry that I call my home.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's been a whole lot of growth as a person. I think that individual growth is really what's keeping sane and happiness and some semblance of like a real life, if you will. You know what I mean? As opposed to delving into social media or all this fear campaigning and the political nightmare that we've experienced in the United States this year. It's truly just a minefield of very difficult situations, and tiptoeing through that to come out on the other side is definitely a challenge.
Yeah. Do you think the stress factor, the building of some of the habits which you now consider were not productive, like alcohol or anything else, right? Like even like weed, do you think those had to do more so with the work choice? Because hospitality could be really, really tough, and as a chef, as you told me, and it could be really challenging. Do you attribute some of the behavior pattern we are falling into has much to do with the career choice, or it could be, or you think it would be independent of each other?
Well, I mean, speaking for myself personally, and my entire life, I've always had, let's call them substance abuse issues. From the time that I was younger and playing around and experimenting with drugs and alcohol and going to parties and being that guy. I've always been there. So, I could say it's partially independent. hospitality does have a certain stigma attached to it, in that there are a lot of people who, habitually use cocaine on the regular, and drink every single night after their shifts, and who smoke, or use hard drugs, or whatever it is, to just like maintain themselves through this lifestyle that is intensely grueling and filled with intense pressures. But the same could be said of a lot of different industries, right? And there's a lot of work and a lot of personal stresses that everybody goes through, that can push them into these habits. Not to say that, like, having a drink here or there is bad. Like, don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoyed a couple glasses of wine for Thanksgiving, and definitely when the time is appropriate, I think, is what I've learned. It's like that appropriate time to indulge and be around people and celebrate life, and that's where I'm choosing to drink, or choosing to indulge, if you will. But like, for me, I would rather say self-control and composure is more important than putting the blame on work, because for years I put the blame, and I said, like, oh no, I'm working, I'm going to the bar, I was going to buy everybody shots, and we're going to have a great time, and I'll be the last one at the bar and the first one to work, and I'm going to go through it, and then as soon as it gets done, maybe I'll smoke a joint in the middle of the day, and then I'll be back cranking out, have a great service, because I'm placing the blame instead of accepting responsibility for my own mental state and actions. And I think that's the real issue, right? Was finding a way to accept these things and say, look, if you're going to continue to do the same thing over and over, you're just going to go crazy, and you're going to lose yourself to the demons, to these negative attributes of your personality.
Yeah. Like, for Chef, like, I think sometimes it takes a particular situation in somebody's life where people are forced to sort of introspect within and see, like, the habits they are partaking on, is it helping them or not. Like, for instance, for myself, when I moved back to Nepal, obviously I was not working at restaurants, and the vibe in Nepal is really, really different, right? It's like it's the mountainous, and it's like, in terms of naturally, it's really, really beautiful. Like, there's a lot of tons of beauty in terms of nature, but it's definitely not as advanced, not even close as New York City, right? So I was not around bars, I was not around that kind of environment myself, and that put me in a position where I was forced to look into myself. And when I was not following through the habit pattern that I was used to, then I started realizing that I had problems, and they need to be fixed, right?
Absolutely.
And that's when I started making changes, and the changes were tough. Like, even for me, I drank for as a sommelier myself, with the interest in wine and with the hospitality. We indulge in drinking very much, and so I made changes in my life. I'm in a really, really better place right now, physically and mentally, because obviously if we start paying attention to what we are eating or drinking and what are we thinking, right food, diet, exercise. I've been meditating continuously for the past 1 year, attended 2 20 days, 10 days long retreat. Everything has helped. For you, what was that point? When did you start noticing that the habits you are partaking on is no longer contributing to the quality of life? Is it? I even suspect. Could it be after you have because you have two kids now? After you have become father, you started rethinking about it, or tough times like this has made you look deep inside yourselves, or like, can you take us through how things
so
how you start paying
fatherhood
attention to those things for yourself?
fatherhood was a huge step for me, and it goes a little bit deeper than just myself becoming a father, and it really tracks me back to growing up and how my experience was, and the family structure that I grew up in. I definitely did not have the ideal childhood. My family was a little bit separated until I was 6, when we got back together and moved in as like a whole family unit again. My father struggled with alcohol abuse, still does to this day. And, that always left a weird strain on our relationship, in which he dedicated more time to his work and to drinking and decompressing from it than he did to my brother and myself as children. And I saw those types of destructive behaviors firsthand growing up, and I don't think that I got like that right type of support or encouragement that you need from a father figure in your life. And I've kind of used that to galvanize myself and make myself stronger in saying that, when I became a father, I was going to do better. And that's been a personal mission of mine, pretty much since 2015, when I became a dad for the first time. And I was young. I was 25. My wife and I were planning to get married that year. Found out we were expecting, pushed the wedding back a year, and really just coped with these challenges. And at the time, I was running a 3-star Michelin restaurant at Masa in Columbus Circle, which, for those of you who know, is one of like the top 5 restaurants in New York. It's the only 3 Michelin restaurant in Japanese cuisine outside of Japan. It was an extremely difficult time for me mentally. I was working 6 days a week, 70 hours, really just grinding it out. And to find out that I was going to accept the challenge of fatherhood at that time, it actually got to the point where I decided to give up this job that many people would kill for.
Good.
Because I knew that it wasn't going to give me the time to be the dad that I wanted to be. So I made a move that was bad for my career, but so much better for my personal life. And it's a decision that I'll never turn back on. I was working in Michelin kitchens for pretty much my entire career, since I got to New York. And when I became a dad, I said, you know what, I've had enough of this. And I started doing more independent ventures. I started doing more consulting. I started opening up like some like casual restaurants that I had a stake in, that I was like giving myself time and being my own boss, so that no one could tell me that I couldn't do what I needed to do for my family. And that was a huge step for me. Even before we jumped on this call today, I read 3 books every night to both of my kids, without fail. Doesn't matter if I'm working or not working or whatever it is. That's like a point that we make, and we do things in the morning time. And they ask me questions, and they're curious, and we draw things, and we go on nature hikes, and we don't allow them to really use technology for more than 20 minutes a day. We're very much interested in being good parents, and that made a huge shift for me, because like all of my friends in the industry, a majority of my friends don't live this life. They don't know what it's like to have kids. They don't understand the struggle and the dedication and what it means, or the adversity that I faced as a child, and why I put so much effort into being a better dad for my kids. Because for me, it's the most important thing in the world. For me, setting up their lives and giving them the love and attention and support and understanding is really above else. It's the highest calling that I've had. So, to say that, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to go to the bar until 3 o'clock in the morning is a selfish decision. And it's gonna impact how I am with my kids the next day. Is it 100%, that like I want to do the right thing for my kids? Yeah, absolutely. Are there times where I want to do things for myself? Yeah, absolutely. I drive around a motorcycle and I disappear into the mountains for 2 hours when they're driving me nuts. I'm only human. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's this greater calling. It's knowing that I've put my life secondary. And it's one of the beautiful things that I really do enjoy about being in the kitchen, because like undeniably, at its purest form, I am taking something from myself and creating it to give to other people. And that's what I really love about food and hospitality. And one of the things that drives me to be a chef is that I am nurturing the soul and the energy of other human beings. I'm taking a part of myself, whether it be like creativity or time or the physical output required to do so, in the interest of making sure that somebody can enjoy breaking bread with the people across that table, that they can enjoy being a part of that and really enjoy that truly human experience. And one of the things that makes societal interactions great is coming together around food, and I love that. That's why I do what I do.
Chef, what was your first encounter with food? Like any particular? Do you remember any particular incident where the food was much more meaningful than it would be for normal people, and how you started paving your way towards choosing chef as your professional career?
Well, like one thing that I've always noticed is like, for whatever is going on in somebody's life, and for whatever problems that they have, and whatever problems that they're facing, and whatever is going well or poorly or whatever, it always ceases around a table. When you're sitting across from somebody and sharing in food and drink and all of these things, I believe that it's a very humanizing experience, and it's like one of those things that touches almost a primal instinct on who we are as people, right? Because what's the first thing that you do to make someone feel comfortable in your home? You offer them food. You offer them a drink. Can I get you anything?
Yes.
Is there something I can do for you? So it's tending to the needs of others in this really like primal instinct that we have as people. And I find that great. I started cooking when I was 13 years old. My parents' anniversary that year, I did a 5-course tasting menu for them. I was a 13-year-old kid. I didn't know what I was doing, but I read some books and I tried some things, and it came out pretty all right. And here I am years later, designing an experience, right? I think that's like the bigger thing, right? And why we refer to restaurants not as restaurants but as concepts, right? Because I'm trying to get you to indulge in this idea, this place, this escape from your everyday life, where you can come and you can be a part of this vibe that we're creating, and really be a part of it. And I think that there's certain people who understand it, and there's certain people who like really connect to that kind of like hum and vibration on like a spiritual level of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And then you got like the other side of the fence who's like, can I just deconstruct this entire thing because I have the palate of a 7-year-old and I've been eating chicken breast and rice my entire life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny because you can't discount that either. You know what I mean? Like, I'm terribly sorry for all the people who I'm offending with my, I want to take apart your meal and do something. I remember you and I had a particular experience in the middle of a very hectic Friday night. I think we did like 320 people, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. But I remember you came to me on the pass and said, "Chef, I've got this lady who wants me to hard-boil eggs." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And you were like, "Well, she doesn't find anything that she wants on the menu." I was like, "Sandeep, we have a 4-page long menu. We're a 1-star Michelin restaurant. I can't just serve boiled eggs on a plate. Like, did you talk to her?" And he's like, "Well, the captain talked to her, and I talked to her, and now I'm here with you, and I just don't know what to do." So I remember at that moment, like, you and I just kind of like had that moment where we just looked at each other for a minute. We're like super busy, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go talk to her." So I changed my apron, and we both walk out there together. And I remember, trying to, as politely as I could, be like, "Pardon me, ma'am, I'm sorry. The manager has told me that you couldn't find anything to your liking on our menu. You asked if we could hard-boil some eggs. Are there any dietary restrictions or anything I should know about so that I might be able to make you something that's a little bit more substantial than hard-boiled eggs?" And she was like, "Well, no, that's kind of just what I'm in the mood for. And I'm sure you've got eggs back there, so if you wouldn't mind." And on the way back to the kitchen, you and I were just shaking our heads back and forth the entire time. And I was like, "Well, I guess we're gonna boil her some eggs then."
So we end up giving her eggs?
That's exactly what we did. So I was like, it's gonna take me a little bit of time because I gotta boil the water, I gotta boil the eggs, I gotta peel the eggs, and then I gotta figure out some way to like not make it look like I just have this nice white on white plate.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that evening because it was like one of those things that, like, as a chef, it bothers you, right? Because you're like, come on, I've gone through all like the time and painstaking effort to make sure that every single thing on the menu is absolutely wonderful and of the highest quality, and everybody's doing the right things, especially at the level that we were producing food at, right? Lessons that I've continued to keep with me to this day. But and then somebody just says, "Do you mind if I just get some eggs?"
Yeah. At Junoon especially, it was even really, really tough because the guests, apart from, guests, American guests or Indian American guests, some of the guests who were first generation Indian, it was really hard to break that barrier. They didn't, they already came up with a full mind, so they were not open to the experience. So I think it was really challenging, and in that sense, even though we both, I'm not associated with Junoon, I think Junoon had a tremendous impact on how, especially Indian or Indian Southeast Asian Indian people thought about food and how it could be elevated. So um, kudos to Junoon, and if Rajesh would be listening, to Rajesh and everybody behind the uh, concept, right?
Yeah.
Of a restaurant, yeah.
No, and I mean, that was definitely a very very awesome part of my career. The relationships and the people, and the accomplishments that we were able to do in such a short time. I mean, like, many of us are still friends to this day.
And it is it's so I remember it too, and I think it is indeed yeah, a not just a pleasure, but is a how do I put it? Is a great experience.
Yes.
It doesn't come out easily. We can't really find it everywhere. To be able to work with passionate people, like passionate people like yourself. Like, even for like, I don't know if I had taken it for granted when I was working. I hope I did not. But to look back, that's incredible to have that opportunity to surround yourself with like amazing people who are like really into their work and really passionate about it. And that's the beauty about I guess a great city like New York.
Is that, I mean, it took us all from all of these different walks of life and all of these different people who we had, and you remember just how amazingly ethnically diverse our kitchen was. You had guys from Nepal and India and Bangladesh, as well as like the Americans who were there and honing our craft, such like myself. And then we had this whole crew of West African dishwashers and all of these really fine like Latin folks who came from like Central and South America, and really all of these people together creating a new boundary breaking take on Indian cuisine, which is a cuisine that is so full of life, right? Like I think that if you were to follow a by the gram recipe for any true masala or any true curry, it would be a disservice to the cuisine as a whole. Like, it's a cuisine that stems from personality and individuality and passion. And I've always felt that food should not be consistent in flavor, but consistent in feeling. Right? I should invoke the same experience in you every single time. So if this dish is meant to warm the body and the soul, that it should do that every single time. And it might be a little bit different, but I'm not the same person I was cooking it for you 3 days ago as I am today cooking it now.
Yeah, like taste and feeling, absolutely. That's what I slowly, as I got older, also had that take on service. That's what they say. It's not what you do, but how you make them feel. So I think our food and like general human experience has so much to do with how we feel, right?
Absolutely.
So, Chef, we I guess we went to that nostalgic area. Thinking about times we worked together. So now we're streamlining to the podcast main topic. I had few questions I wanted to ask you, and so many of them I think you have already answered it somehow in the conversation. But there's one particular question I still want to ask you. At this point, it's a little clear for me, but still I want to ask you this. So what is the most important thing for you in life besides family now? I know the kids and family. By the way, I told you offline, right? You have an amazing family.
Thank you.
That's why I keep on like liking your pictures and everything. Those two kids, they're beautiful. Be careful with your motorcycle, chef. I know motorcycle in United States and motorcycle in other parts of the world is not the same.
Oh yeah.
Like in
Well,
Nepal,
all the
everybody
gear all
rides
the
motorcycle.
time.
Yeah, all the gear all the time, and it's really risky, but it could be an amazing experience. So be careful with that. Be safe. Our well wishes is always going to be there. And that's it. What's the most important thing for you, Seth, right now, or
Honestly,
before, or when you were a child, before family, besides family, though?
The most important thing for me has been true my entire life, and it's just be a decent human being for others. It's funny because I'm the chef and because I'm the leader, and sometimes I have to show the stern face, and sometimes people view me as intimidating or a little bit crass or raw in my personality, but I think that most people get it wrong. If you ever needed something from me, I'd be there for you. If you ever needed help, even if I couldn't help you or I didn't know how, I would find a way. Because at the core of who I am as a person and what I've built my personality on is being truly selfless for others. And that is 100% the most important thing in my life. I love other people. I love humanity. I love everybody for their greatness and their faults and all of it in between. And although people might be difficult and frustrating at the end of the day, I would still always go out of my way.
That's beautiful,
fellow man.
It is indeed beautiful. I wanna add a statement there as well. Again, since in the podcast we're also catching up. I guess we're catching up after so many years, right? Maybe we haven't spoken in like 7-8 years now. Maybe definitely 5 years. Definitely 5 years. We've talked a little bit, chatted, but not spoken in person. And I also asked this question to myself: and what should be the top thing that we should guide my life from there on or now on? And I look through different point of view, right? And I was wrong always. What I was trying to do was I was trying to work good and achieve and everything, but I guess I didn't really understood what made me happy, and I've come to the conclusion is love and service should be the two important pillars we should guide somebody's life. That's what I thought, because I was connecting with you because you said you want to be as selfless as possible, right? And obviously it should give you some form of satisfaction, right? But that's not related to a materialistic satisfaction. Not a satisfaction, the satisfaction we could get by being selfish is different than the satisfaction we get being selfless, right?
Absolutely.
And that has a different and a more profound sort of beauty. I saw it myself, and I just wanted to share with you, right? And that's why like I wanted to do something productive, but it has to offer some form of service, of service which extends beyond selfish interest.
Yes.
And just
I mean, the thing that's crazy, right, is so right now we live in a very difficult time, with media and real news and fake news and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook and all of these falsified experiences of humanity. I don't participate a ton on social media. When I do, It's usually like something for the restaurant. Like you knew me at the restaurant. Like I would never take pictures of my own dishes to be like, look how great this is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always the last person to taste it because I wanted to know what other people felt about it. Because like, yeah, I knew what was in it or what it was supposed to taste like. Like I made the thing, but
Yeah.
But what has always been more important to me is like what other people feel about it, and that's one of the reasons why I still love what I do. And like the industry has changed a ton. It's very different, and it's not the same. But I'm still just trying to make nice things for cool people, and not gouge people for it. And
I got the vision of that lobster dish you made, and even the lamb shank. Is it you and Chef Eden both? And the lobster dish especially. Remember, because I can't remember the name, but that was yours, no? There's the one dish that was like hugely popular, and every time I got that on the table, the lamb shank with the toppings and everything, and lobster dish. Because while you're talking, like I suddenly saw the picture of those dish.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, we
when you're talking about like photographing your dishes,
I never wanted to
to
make it about ego, and I think that's like a big problem with this social media generation, right? It's become so much about the ego, the like culture, right? Like that you're feeding into this thing, and you touched on a very interesting point much earlier in our conversation where you're talking about this when it comes to like the kids and the impact that it's having on them, and like depression is running rampant, and all of these really big social issues that are being swept under the rug.
Yeah, Chip. In all of this podcast episode, is also has been a revelation for me in some sort, and I had posed this question to other guest speakers as well. And if like happiness would be so important for human being, right? If the well-being and happiness is why, because why not people are teaching those kind of core subjects in the curriculum? I don't know. They don't teach in the school. They don't teach in Nepal. They didn't teach in college. I don't know about high school, and some of them said that they don't teach in high school. I think people are not. We all need this sense of well-being and happiness, but as you mentioned, the whole world and the trend is going towards materialistic gain. It's okay with achievement and materialistic gain, but we can make that out of proportion, because it's going to be unhealthy for kids, because they're not going to know how to figure this whole process out, and we don't want people to figure out when it's already too late, and we have seen a lot of examples where people can't figure it out till in their mid 40s, 50s, and I was even mentioning Maradona, like Diego Maradona. He had a problem, but that's what I was referring to earlier, and that's solely based on my observation.
And I mean, like, really, like, I'm a big minimalist. I don't like clutter. Clutter creates chaos. Chaos creates stress. Stress leads to unhappiness.
Yeah.
You don't need things. Things will never bring you joy, right? You should appreciate the things that you have and find joy in them, in their greatness or in their flaws. And I've given away so much stuff that I didn't need. Whether it was like old winter jackets that I didn't like anymore, but what was I going to do with them? And I saw these young line cooks who like don't make a ton of money, and were struggling and didn't have like good jackets, and like, yeah, man, take this stuff. Like I don't need it. Whatever the case was, like we donate clothes all the time. Even the clothes that I buy, man, like if you see me every day, I'm in jeans or chinos in a black t-shirt and every once in a while you'll catch me in a button down if it's the fall, and I've got maybe 3 sweaters, and like 4 jackets, 2 of which are for the bike. You know, like I don't want things anymore. I've given up on wanting, and I think that's one of the most important things that helped me grow as a person, is understanding, being a minimalist, being selfless, and trying to teach that philosophy to others. Because like the more that you chase the things, like, and look, like, don't get me wrong, like, yeah, I've got a house, I got a car, I got a bike, you know, I've got a wonderful family. Like I should not want, right? And every once in a while, yeah, I'll see something that I'll say, you know what, I would be a whole lot better for me if I had one of those. It would make my life a whole lot easier. And then like I catch myself in that roundabout logic, and it's all just a trap, man. It's marketing. It's dark psychology that these people are pushing on you, on this really junk culture. You need a new pair of shoes every 6 months? No, man, you should buy a pair of shoes that's going to last you a year. You know, you don't need 12 pairs of shoes. You need like 2, maybe some boots, maybe some athletic shoes. You know, like it shouldn't be this excess. We're killing the planet for it. We're killing ourselves. We're getting ourselves into these like ridiculous financial strains that makes you struggle and always want more and never be satisfied. And I'm an ambitious guy. Like I always want to do bigger. Like I want to do better. I want the 3 restaurants that I'm running right now to become 7 in the next 3 years. But I don't want to do that because I'm thinking of all the gains it's going to get me. I'm thinking about doing that because I think it's going to make a better system and a better quality of life for all the people who are impacted by it. All the employees that are going to be there, and all the lives that are going to change, and all the people who are going to experience what it is that I do in my craft, and be able to give that gift to all of those people is really what's ultimately important in all of that. And yes, living your life like that will reap good rewards. It will. But you can't go into it with the selfish mindset of, I'm just going to do this for me because I have to do all these things to make all the money, to buy all the stuff, to take all the vacations, to go everywhere in the world and own everything.
Yep.
It's a sad existence when the most important thing in your life is to always want, to always need. You know, that greed is really like the downfall of people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree with you, Seth. 100% is there. We are almost in 1 hour mark here. Usually the podcast is 25-30 minutes. I've done one other podcast that was an hour. I really want to. I'm not exaggerating here, but I wouldn't care if it would be 2 hours. But I'm really enjoying the conversation. However, we lost some time earlier while we try to establish that connection. So I'm going to wrap this up for this episode, and hopefully, if you'd be kind, we want you talking and sharing yourself so that we all could listen to your amazing thought processes and your life experiences in our coming episodes. But for now, I have a last question. It has been sort of a tradition of the podcast now. I ask all the guests one thing you would advise our listeners, especially young listeners, to stay away from, and one thing you want them to get into as soon as possible.
Put your phone down, put your computer down, and get yourself out into nature. You discover your true self in the outdoors, in an uncluttered mental space. I personally go hiking at least once every other week. 40 degrees or 90, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is to be able to be yourself with your thoughts and seek out meditation and seek out clarity in your mind. And you'll never do that with your eyes glued to a screen. So phones down and open minds, I think, is the only advice that I can give to people. And I think that they'll experience a much more fulfilling and enriched life because of it.
This is beautiful. This said, also I extend a formal invitation to Chef and your family whenever down the road, down in a few years, whenever you get time, come to Nepal. It's a beautiful place. It's really beautiful, especially if you like nature, hiking and trekking. I will catch up with you on that regard personally. Anything else you wanna tell to our listeners?
No, man. I mean, like, really, I'm so pleased to have gotten the opportunity to hang out and chat with you tonight. Really, really great to connect with you. Like you said, it's been some years, and really fantastic to have this opportunity just to talk about some things that are very important to me. And I hope that the message, strikes some people, and I hope that, your podcast does extremely well. And, I wish you all the best of luck with it. Really just great to be a part of it, man. And thank you so much for inviting me. I'm definitely going to be taking you up on that offer to come to Nepal. It's one of those things I would really love to do.
Because when I was a kid, since I was born in a place surrounded by nature, rivers, mountains, hills, like I could show you a picture like how it looks outside. There's a mountain called Fishtail. It looks like how we see Empire State Building from some part of Manhattan. That's that close it looks. I'm gonna show it to you later. But I never appreciated nature way later in my life. Like nowadays, like it's been a year, I started appreciating nature. The more or less egoistical I've become somehow, right? The more I'm appreciating nature, and the more fruitful the experience it has been. So I forget where I was going with it, but yeah, I really admired your what you said, like being in nature, and also I admired everything you said. The conversation is special also for me. It's a growing opportunity. It's a learning opportunity every time I get to talk, because in all those years knowing you, we never dwell deep in this kind of conversation, so it's an opportunity for me as well to know you as a person. Everything what you mentioned was so candid, and I was like awestruck. I was like really listening to it, really paying attention, and it really all makes sense now, and I think I've known you a little better now as well. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for so easily accepting the offer despite everything's going on in your life, despite all the craziness. You extending the support to support your old friend. I appreciate it. I appreciate that a ton, Chef.
Absolutely, man. I mean, like, if ever there was a time to do it, 2020 has been a big year of reconnection for me, and working on, all of these things. So I think that this is also a big part of my personal journey, and being able to walk this path with you and do this, like, it's great, man. Super fulfilling, and it's nice to get the message out,
Absolutely. Thank you. So we're gonna end the episode now, and once again, thank you. Stay safe, have fun, and take care.
Take care of yourself, man. Great
Take care,
talking to you. Be
Austin
in touch.
Torciello.
Good
So,
guy.
dear listeners, this is it. The seventh episode. Let us know what you think about this particular episode. If you have comments, if you have ideas, feel free. As a matter of fact, love if you would give me some feedback so that we could make the coming episodes even more engaging, meaningful, and fun. Thank you all.